Oh, hello, everyone. My microphone on? Yes, I saw a wave. Thank you, Sue. I see smiles. So, bienvenidos y bienvenidas a todos. Welcome all. I first want to start introducing myself. I'm Sheila Oach, for those who do not know me. I'm the Chief Engagement and Equity Officer here in the organization. But first, I want to say thank you to the Reach Lowell team for hosting this panel and from bringing all of this together and all the activities that we've been having throughout our Hispanic Latinx Heritage Month. I also want to say thank you to our panelists for being here. Thank you so much for all of you for joining. And I think thanks for those who haven't joined, who I know will join as soon as they're able to get off the floors from seeing patients, and we'll start logging on in a few minutes. So thank you ahead of time. For me, truly, it's an honor to take part in celebrating us. This year's theme is Unidos, Inclusivity for a Stronger Nation. And as I had said in my email prior in September, together we're building a future based on appreciating, on understanding, on celebrating our heritages, recognizing our own cultures, strengthen our communities. Yo soy muy orgullosa de ser Latina. I'm very proud to be Latina. In the US, we make up a little bit over 62 million people. And here in Lowell, we make up nearly 21 people and counting, which is pretty remarkable. For our patient population, it's about the same, actually, in terms of in proportion. So we're large in number. You know, a little bit about Hispanic Latinx Heritage Month. In 1968, September 15th exactly, President Lyndon Johnson signed to proclaim National Hispanic Heritage Week. Actually, it wasn't until later on that President Ronald Reagan extended it to a month-long celebration, celebrating all of us. And the month itself is dedicating to celebrating the great history and our contribution to this beautiful fabric that we have here in the United States. And why it begins on September 15th this year is because it is the anniversary of the independence of 5 Latin American countries, including Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Mexico, Chile, and Belize also celebrate their Independence Days during this period. And it just so happens that what we know as Indigenous Peoples Day, we know it as Dia de la Raza, also falls within this month as well. So there's a lot to celebrate together. Now, today we're hosting the last of our activities this month. I heard last Thursday was absolutely sabroso and delicious with all the food that was put out, the bocadillos. So that's awesome for those of you who got to attend. Thank you for coming. Today, our panel titled Path to Leadership really takes an approach first introduced by Brenda Rodriguez, who's our Chief Financial and Strategy Officer here in the organization. And the approach is that it gives the microphone to others to hear about their path to where they are today. Brenda has done this for the past couple of years at her full department meetings, and today we bring this approach to all of you. So before we get started, we want to review a little bit of our relational practices. And our relational practices are ways that how we relate with each other. And I ask all of us as we step into these spaces, like today and others in the future, to always maintain a curious stance and consider this truly a learning space. So we're going to be hearing amazing stories, and we're going to be learning from all of us together. Knowing that we may intend to say something a certain way, so we need to own our intentions, but also notice the impact of what it is that we're saying. It's very important. Own your own experience. I know within the Latinx bucket, there's so much diversity that exists, right? So our experience is our own. So I always say, let's not try to generalize. We speak from our eyes, what we have lived through and what we do, and that's collective for all of us. Sharing our airspace is incredibly important as well. And our Reach Lowell team has a beautiful ways of letting us know when we need to hand over the microphone to hear from others as well. And practice appreciative inquiry. And what that means is really appreciating what we're hearing, even if we don't understand it, even if it challenges us in a different way, but asking ourselves why that is, and asking questions from that curious stance to learn more, not only of ourselves, but then of us, those around us, and who we're hearing from today. And I see that Brenda joined. Hi, Brenda. Just spoke about you 2 seconds ago. So our moderator today is Jimmerly Gonzalez, who I've had the pleasure of working with now for several years, very closely. She's our Reach Lowell Program Director here at the Health Center. Now, a little bit about the Reach program. The Reach Lowell program mission is to eliminate disparities among our Southeast Asian and our Hispanic Latinx community as it relates to the topics of diabetes. And we do that through culturally tailored approaches and coalition building with many of our community partners. But back to Jimmerly. Jimmerly completed her bachelor's degree in biology with a minor in public health at the University of Massachusetts Lowell. Go Riverhawks! I'm a Lowell grad myself. She's currently pursuing her master's in public health from Simmons University for the past 3 years. Actually, for 3 years prior, Jimmerly held a license to the state of Massachusetts as an EMT and was certified through the National Registry of Emergency Medical Technicians. So Jimmerly has that in her pocket as well. She has served as a Healthy Hawks peer mentor and senior resident advisor at UMass Lowell campus. Here at the Health Center, she's functioned in a variety of roles, including community outreach coordinator. She was prior the Reach Lowell program manager. She has great experience in community organizing, working with diverse populations, working collaborative with community partners to continue to further our mission of our health center and our Reach Lowell program. Now, through the pandemic, Jimmerly also supported the state's contact tracing initiative as a contact tracer. She is a Spanish language medical interpreter and also has her comprehensive outreach certificate from our very own CHECK program. Not in her bio that I was sent is the fact that I know she loves tostones very much. So for those of you who know tostones, tostones is the green plantains that are fried and delicious. So if you haven't tried it, please do. But to kick it off, I want to hand it over to Jim Marlee, who will introduce our wonderful panelists that we have here today. But first, I want to ask her one question that has been at the center of many conversations over the past month here at the Health Center. So Jim Marlee, the question is, spicy food or not spicy food? And I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm a not spicy, but spicy if it tastes good. That's just how I am. Thank you, Sheila, for introducing me. And I didn't realize how long that bio was, so I'm sorry, y'all. So today we're going to talk about a number of things. Sheila did our welcome. We'll introduce our panelists, and then we'll start having conversations about, our leadership and where that comes from and how, we got to where we are. And then it will have some opportunity at the end to ask questions if you all are curious. And then we'll do a thank you and closing after that. So I'm also going to continue on that icebreaker. And I'll start by introducing our panelists. And so today, I actually wanted to share something. So I did a curious thing and I went on Merriam-Webster and I asked, I didn't ask, but I searched up what is leadership. And so Merriam-Webster said, it's someone that leads. And I'm like, Merriam-Webster, that is not helpful. That's not giving me much of what it is. So I looked up what does it mean to lead. And so it is defined as to guide, to direct, and also to serve. To guide, it means like sometimes putting yourself first and going first and going into the darkness first before others. And to serve also means using channels and creating channels so that others could use that as a guide. And so I think today we are emphasizing the leadership is within everyone in different ways. And it was incredibly hard to pick and choose within our health center, who is going to be part of our panel, because we have a broad array of leaders within our organization, and that speaks so much about our organization and who we are. And today, we're able to highlight 3 leaders who are willing to serve as channels today and share their knowledge and experience with you all in hopes that eventually you all in the future can continue to do that with your peers. So without further ado, I am going to start alphabetically and across the screen. So I'm going to ask our panelists to give a quick, brief introduction of yourselves, give a little bit of who you are, where you're from, and first of all, you have to answer spicy or not spicy. That is the question. So I'm going to pass it over to Alessandra Fisher, if she doesn't mind introducing herself and coming on screen. And I think your mic is still off.
I should know this by now. Oi, tudo bem? Olá, hi. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm a spicy girl. I'm from Brazil. I'm a Brazilian American. A little bit of what I do. I'm also part of the board at the local community health center. I work in Lowell at the Massachusetts Alliance of Portuguese Speakers. I also have other jobs. I'm a theater teaching artist. I'm gonna be working with the Free Soil Collectives. I'm very excited about that. And also Parenting Journey, offering support groups. So I have a lot of jobs, I do a lot of volunteering working. Like I have this TV show at the LTC, and I can talk a little bit later about that, but that's a little bit about what I do and I'm a mother, I'm daughter, and a wife. I don't know what else to say, but that's it for now.
Thank you, Alessandra. Awesome. And next we have is Javier Ramos. And again, you have to answer, is it spicy or not spicy? And feel free to introduce yourself and your identity.
Buenos días. Hi, everyone. Jean Marie, I have to say, not spicy. I do not like spicy food, not even a hint or a pin. So that's always been with me as a little kid. I just do not tolerate spices or spicy food. I'm sorry. But hi, everyone. I just want to tell you that it is an honor to be here today, sharing a little bit with everyone. I was born in Puerto Rico and I moved to the mainland as a toddler. I was always encouraged to be proud of my Latino roots from my family or by my family. My mother always instilled that pride in me. And to this day, I carry that within me and I'll never forget to always go back to my Latino roots, the Spanish. So I do encounter that at times. I might be starting a sentence in English, and because I'm talking to someone who's Latino, I'll go into the Spanish, and I'm like, oh wow. But it happens frequently with me, and that's because I've always instilled that Latino root in me. So I'm very proud to be Latino. But I just a little bit of myself, about myself. I grew up participating in church and interacting with the community, where I grew up to serve as a children and youth leader for a few years. And currently now I serve as a projection and sound tech lead. In my teenage years, I began volunteering at a nonprofit organization here in the city. Till this date, I am still involved with this organization. My professional field and volunteering field have allowed me to engage with diversity and see the challenges that many face. Having a passion to serve others and the heart of compassion for our community really has played a vital role in my leadership journey. And this has made an imprint in my life. So I appreciate it again for having me here. And that's all I have to say for now.
Thank you, Javier. That's great. So I also want to allow Sor Peña to introduce herself. And again, we need to know, I think this is a pressing question in the chat too, spicy or not spicy?
Definitely spicy. Spicy on everything. I like it so much. So hi everyone, my name is Sor Peña. I'm very honored to be invited to participate in this group. I'm representing Colombian here, all my women from the country. So very proud to be here. I have been working in the company for over 15 years. My journey started in behavioral health as a receptionist. I stayed in that department for about 10 years, and then the company gave me the opportunity to move to another position called schedule administrator. There I worked for about 2.5 years. And again, I have another opportunity to become the lead practice manager for 3 departments: adult medicine, PWC, and OBGYN. And that's how I'm serving my community so far, helping patients and providers to be able to support them and become healthy as they can be. So here, that's who I am. I am a mother. When I'm not working, I love to spend time with my family. I have 2 kids. I like outside activities, and we like to eat a lot. So we go a lot to restaurants, and we like to different places and eat a lot of spicy food, by the way. So that's what I am.
Awesome. So I think we have on the panel 2 spicy and 2 not spicy, right? I think I'm right? So we have a good perspective on the team right now. So this is great, 50-50. This is wonderful.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
More spiciness, spicy than not spicy, because Latino population is a lot of spicy food, but I was wrong.
Absolutely, yeah. It's different depending on what we ate growing up and our different experiences that we have. Surprisingly, that's what we found at that lunch table, that different people like different spice, and that was interesting. So thank you all for sharing a little bit about yourself. I want to go through a little bit about what our topic of discussion today. I think Sheila touched upon it a little bit, but we are going to talk about leadership and what how our path to leadership came about. and how our culture as Latinos from different countries comes to kind of define that leadership and shape that leadership a bit more. So we're going to kick off these panel questions. So we're going to start having conversations about, what was your path to leadership, and, who was that model of leadership growing up that you can say, wow, this is actually what shaped me, or what, allowed me and guide me to be the leader I am today. So anyone excited to share what their path to leadership was? Maybe we can start backwards. So I started with Alessandra and ended with Sor. So Sor, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. I've been in this country for 20 years and 15 working at Lowell Community Health Center. So I tend to look at my leaders in the company as a person to learn from. I had Pauline Jo Brown at one point. She was my go person for. And then I have Janelle Perez that I'm pretty sure all of you know her as well. Wonderful person. She helped me a lot to develop knowledge and to be able to, to grow up in my positions. Then I have Adeline Soto. And now I have Dr. Rao, a wonderful person that I'm working with. He is the most humble person I have been know in my life. And he's been my leadership right now model. So there's the person that I'm going for anything, any questions, any concerns. When I'm kind of like, I'm lost in the path, I go to him and he helped me.
That's wonderful. Javier, would you like to share your path to leadership? And
Sure. I actually had the privilege to have a CEO when I was very young, who was very encouraging. And I remember also my manager, she was tough on me. But I believe that, like Gems, you have to go through a process in order to see the end result. And while I was growing up in the path to leadership at a young age, as I started my journey in the transportation field at age 18 to 19, they had to work in me, and I had to be molded into who I am today. It was a hard process throughout my career, because not just being young, but being molded, sometimes there are parts of you that need extra work per se, and it's tough to let those areas be sharpened, right? And I struggled with that for a bit, but I was able to understand that they were doing this because they were leading me in a way for me to be able to not just be a leader, but create leaders in my path. So my path to leadership was a little bit different than others, but at this current moment, I'm very appreciative for the leaders I had in my past, and currently my leaders here at the health center. Adeline works with me, and I'm very, very, very grateful to have her as my main leader right now, and Brenda. And she works with me so well, and the way she always encourages you, it's always been on a positive role model way. And I appreciate that, because that is a leader. Someone who's willing to work with you, someone who's willing to show you the way, to be with you on the way. So that is something that I have learned and currently hold within myself. And that has been part of my path to leadership right now.
Awesome. That's wonderful to hear. Thank you, Javier. Alessandra?
Okay. With me, it started with the feeling of belonging and connecting with who I was at the time when I first started. And it took a long time, a lot of work. There was a lot of steps that I needed to take to overcome my own insecurities and fears, and work really hard to look inside. It was a painful process, but necessary for me to build the strength and start, a different journey. So how I put myself on that journey meant a different thing for me, because it opened doors. as I was trying so hard to achieve certain things and just, doors were closed where I was knocking. So I had to work on myself and see what I'm doing. So it's kind of like connecting to who you are, your culture, your family, the experiences that you have, how you respond to those experiences. And sometimes you don't have role models because you're the one that's starting something. And maybe the role models that, depending on the industry that you're working, you don't have those, and you have to be the first one to start doing something in that community. And it takes a lot of work and a lot of determination. And the leaders that were really helpful to me, that I look forward to everything they do, are leaders that are connected to the community, truthful to who they are, and they bring you along with them. They're passionate about what they do. And it's kind of like you just have no doubts of seeing them, and you just want to follow them, and you want to be part of them, and make changes with them and collaborate with them. So they inspire you.
Thank you, Alessandra. And like I see like a lot of familiarities among us. Like we have people who were awesome leaders that were in our lives that influenced us to want to be leaders. And then oftentimes we were the channel makers. We were the ones, going in first to see if it's safe so that everyone else can follow. So that's wonderful to hear. I think when it comes to me, I growing up, I was surrounded by very strong Latina women who have inspired me to be who I am today, and at least kind of just steered me like in the right direction, and have provided almost like a vessel of support as I start to grow. I couldn't say that I would have envisioned myself where I am today 10 years ago or 5 years ago. But I am here, and I think a lot has to do with the love and the support that my peers have given me and my family have given me to allow for me to grow. And I think another thing I heard among us was that we were all a work in progress, right? We're all continuing to evaluate, like, what are those things I need to work on, and who can I look to help me grow and be better, and grow to be the leader I am, to hopefully share that with others in the future. So thank you all for sharing that, and feel free to jump in and add ideas to what people are saying, and having a casual conversation. We're all just chatting along. And so another thing we can think about is our culture, and how much like our culture really influences our leadership. Something I can think of initially is just like our family dynamic, and who are the like I was talking about the 3 influential women: my mom, my sister, and my grandmother, and how that dynamic influenced me. But how does my culture, right, influence and influence my leadership and my style? Does anyone want to talk to that a little bit more?
I can go first. In the Latino culture, everyone is family. You treat everyone as a family member, from a neighbor to a friend who becomes your primo, your cousin, to the teller that you go to the bank, you cash your check every single week. You just become family, and you start treating others like they're your own after you build that relationship of seeing them casually. I think with that, it has impacted me, and that's part of how I am as a leader. I see people quickly, and I make them as if they're my family, my own, and that's how I also care for them. I try to go above and beyond, because to me, they are family, and that's what my culture has that has kind of built me to be with everyone that surrounds me, whether it's a colleague or someone I've met recently. It's just the dynamic that I have. And I, to this day, I hold that close to my heart. I don't change that, because it's how I've learned to treat others. Treat them as your family.
That's a phenomenal point. Family is huge, right? And that kind of guides your perspectives with working with other people. Yeah. Go ahead. Alessandra, do you want to share a little bit about that?
Sure. So, what I can say, like, when I moved to the US, I noticed that I was very confused because I noticed this strong language was one thing because I didn't speak any English, but also the culture was a bit of a challenge. It still is, but I have, positive things to say about it and also negative things to say about it. The things is I learn a lot about myself, who I was, my culture, my country as I move away. So I had to give myself this open mind and space to be able to open my heart to a different culture, to different cultures, to the others that I didn't have experience with, and that was a great opportunity because I could learn a lot from that. So I love my country, the country that I was born. I love my culture, heritage, but I think it's really important to embrace others as well. So I kind of like bring that back to everybody that is from Brazil. Like when, if they say something to me that's like, oh, that it's awesome, but at the same time you are limited in your views because you just think that your family, your country is better than anybody else. So you kind of like challenge those views a little bit. And we expanded the way we see the world around us. So I really like that when I moved here. At the same time, I really appreciate and I'm very proud of who I am. A combination of these two worlds. Very privileged for that because they have the best. They have the country that I was born and the country that become, later on my home, my second home. And I think that it's a great opportunity for us to put ourselves in different shoes and kind of like expand everything, open our hearts and that's okay. I feel that you don't have to pick one than the other. And I feel a lot of the Brazilians, I can say, based on my experience, we cannot like a different culture, different person because we're gonna be betraying our own, and it's not that. You can like everybody. You don't need to pick one or the other. So I had to learn to navigate those things, and as I was getting closer to understand who I was as a Brazilian. It's a little complex, but it's an ongoing thing. I feel that I'll be doing that for a long time as I learn more and more and more.
I can definitely resonate with that, Alessandra. I am my family was born in Puerto Rico, so I was born here. But I also straddled two different cultures, right? My Latinidad and my Latin culture and my roots. But then it's almost like when you're trying to like assimilate into the American culture and you feel like, oh, but I'm betraying, my other culture. But it's also like what makes us a little bit more, vibrant and like full of different types of perspectives, and also going into these spaces, the value we have by having that different perspective, being from another culture, and how we can bring like cultural humility into the space and understand like other people's perspective and be willing to be like like look back and sit back and realize that we may not have the same perspective and you may be having trouble, and that's okay to sit and do. So thank you for sharing that really resonated with me. Go ahead, Soy.
Yeah, so something else that I want to mention is when I came into this country and have the opportunity to have many cultures in the same place, made me realize that especially for me, I grew up in a family where I was a follower. I follow what my boss told me to do. I follow what my dad said, my mom said, it was a follower. when I came to this country, made me realize that we as a woman have other opportunities, that we have the right to speak up, that we have the right to be leaders and be part of a team. So for me, it was very eye-opening when I came here and I had the opportunity to have Brazilian, Mexican, any kind of nationality together and see how we are all different, but at the same time, we are following the same paths. It was so good for me.
Thank you. And, you know, would you have any, you know, advice for others seeking kind of like leadership and potentially in that same experience?
So I will say that always ask questions. Try to choose a leader, someone that match, a little bit of your nationality and has been here for a long time. So they will give you some advices, and that's what I had at the beginning when I came here. I found someone that helped me a lot. It was here for 20 years, and she was able to give me that, okay, you can do that. Okay, that's okay. You're not gonna offend anyone if you mention it. This, that kind of situations. It was very useful for me. So that would be my advice. Yeah.
And Alessandra, do you have any advice for folks that may be experiencing the same thing about culture and their intersectionality with, their experiences?
Yes. I would say like use every opportunity that comes to you and take advantage of it in a way that transform that opportunity. If it's not something that you were, hoping for, instead of giving up, just use that opportunity and transform it into something else. So it might be better than what you dreamed of, and don't let your fear be your guide, and always believe in yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror and see something great. See that you're enough. That's, I get emotional.
Yeah.
And express yourself, because that's not a sign of weakness. I feel that we have learning a long way. I have learned a long way as a Latino that, sometimes we push ourselves too much because you don't want to show that we are weak, right? Mental health, things like that. No, you're crazy, you're loca. So we don't show our emotions, we don't express ourselves with fear of retaliation, fear of judgment, things like that. So you can be a leader, you can guide others, you can inspire others, you can connect with others. If you're more human, you're more relatable, you can show your emotions. And I feel that way if I express myself and be truthful to myself, and connect with people that have the same goals and share the same values, open doors, open hearts, build bridges instead of walls.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Yeah, build bridges instead of walls. It's wonderful. Javier? Any advice?
Yeah. I would say do not allow your obstacles, whether that is your accent, right? Some of us have that accent. I'm lucky enough. Well, not that I'm lucky, but I was raised here, so I don't have that heavy Hispanic accent. But don't allow your accent or the way you think, the way you had your childhood deter you from the goals that you have set for yourself and the lifestyle that you envision yourself with. The beauty of the world is that there's so much diversity that brings us all as one. And to us, I always say to those who ask me, shift your mentality, right? Shift that mentality sometimes. And we all know this, our biggest warfare is in our mind. So shift that mentality and find a mentor, a leader you can look up to, right? But above all, believe in yourself. Believe that you can make it, that you can do it. And in my case, I have been blessed enough to have a circle of friends where not only we sit down, we call it our round table time. We sit down and we basically pour our hearts out in that round table, and we talk about situations that we encounter daily. Um, it is something that I encourage you to do. Find those people that are gonna lift you up when you need to, but that you are also are willing to lift them up when they need to. You know, having that group of people that surround you will allow you to not just learn from them, but they will learn from you. So shifting your mentality, I always believe in that. You have to shift your mentality because it has to start with you. And once it starts with you, what you develop within yourself, how you are, what you learn is what you're going to give. So my advice is, as Latinos, yes, we get mistreated sometimes, especially because of your skin tone or how you speak or how you think, but everyone has potential and you have to believe that. You know, you have the potential to be greater than most of what we think we can accomplish. So believe in yourselves, reach for the stars. That would be my best advice to anyone right now.
That was great. And I see some positive affirmations in the chat that you know, agree with you. And I think to piggyback off of that, like, you know, also like being like super confident about, you know, your accent and your heritage, and being able to speak up for yourself. I think are a lot of, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like from my experience, our Latino culture oftentimes, you know, we have to take what we get, and that's it. And there is no if, ands, or buts. There is no, you just take it, and you know, you can't speak up for yourself, and you know, be confident enough to say, you know, I actually don't like how that feels, you know, and that feels crummy, and I am who I am, and I also, you know, try to bring the best to myself into a space. So thank you. And then, you know, as we start to talk about, you know, these things that almost talk, like when we, you know, highlight some advice, would you mind reflecting on some barriers, especially as someone who identifies as Latinx, that have been put in the way from you to access or to, you know, be a leader, and how have you overcome them? I know all of us experience some barriers with some things, and so how have you overcome those barriers that you have throughout, you know, your leadership and your journey and path to leadership?
I can start. So thank you, Javier. I think Javier just nailed down my biggest fear and barrier. It is my accent. It is like I had it in my mind all the time. Oh my God, what people are gonna think about me. Oh my God, they're gonna understand what I'm saying. So that's one of the biggest barriers that I have, my language, and I had to really believe in myself. I had to really believe I have a lot of potential, and I have a lot of to say it in I have, if I had to say it and repeat it twice, that's fine, I would do it. So I'm been working on that daily. I'm been preparing myself to meetings. So I have to stop being my own ghost, if that's how I usually call it. Like I had to take the ghost on my mind and say it myself that I could do it. So I would say that that's my biggest barriers right now that it has been already in my career.
And so what are some of the things you've done to kind of overcome that barrier?
I prepare myself to meetings, be confident on what I'm going to say, read a lot. It's been helpful for me. So that's kind of like what I'm been doing right now.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Alessandra, would you like to talk about a little bit about any barriers that are really affecting like leadership through your path to leadership, and how have you overcome them?
Sandra, you're on mute, yeah.
Okay, sorry. I think it's kind of like what I said before. I work on myself first because if I didn't believe in myself, I would not do anything. So I had to really work on myself first. And of course, language, it was a big barrier. And when someone was looking me funny or laughing at me when I was learning English, that was, difficult because then if I was insecure, it became like such a big wall. So I went to school, I worked hard, and I noticed those things, but I work hard, like very hard to overcome those barriers. And aside to that, of course, I didn't have the same opportunities. So I had to go to school at night and work. So I could not just go to school, and I had to pay for my education. I'm still paying, as you can imagine. And I might die and still have this because it's so much money. But so education, it's kind of like um, hard for us, right? Because a lot of when I went to school, I could count on my fingers, who was in class with me. So there was mostly white and students, and I was the only one that um, was representing a Latino culture in most of the classrooms there. So my teachers were mostly white, and I think the environment also was very oppressive. And when I went to school, I had all those dreams and things. And when I felt that I was so oppressed and a fear of speaking up and sharing my ideas because I was less than. So when I went to school, I found this environment that was um, very challenging and oppressed. So I continued, I didn't give up. I start working more on myself to build that confidence to show up every time. But I had, aside to that, there was the barriers of which a lot of people go through, like transportation. So if you work and have to go to school at night, where you go to school, where you live. If it's too expensive, you cannot, like I used to go to school in Boston and I used to live at the time in Nashville, New Hampshire. So I had to travel 2 to 3 hours to go to school, and get home by 1 and get back at work at 7 in the morning. So those become a barrier because, the how much you can afford, where you can live, transportation. So there little bit of everything in there. Mental health, a lot of things.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Javier?
Yeah. So in my barriers, one of my barriers that I don't share as much, but some do know, was I was raised in a home where my mother was single and she was disabled. So along the way, I had to learn many things on my own. At the age of 12, it was just her and I in the household, and I had to pick up real quick on being basically head of household, right? So I was still working with going to school, maintaining grades, dealing with the teen years, which are one of the hardest years, but it was hard in that perspective because I had so much to deal with at home, and balancing that mentally was a challenge for me. I had to look for help. Even at school, I had to make sure that mentally I had the help that I needed at the end of the middle school and early high school, just to maintain myself in a good mental state. But overall, growing up, I had to learn many things on my own. I never gave up. And although my mother was disabled, I was able to learn many great things. She was very positive. Anybody who met her would see that she always had a smile. She would always look for the positive out of the negative. And that to me was a loss. That to me is part of my roots today. I always look for what's positive out of the negative. When there's a situation that arises that may seem overwhelming, I step back, take a deep breath. I know there's something we can look and we can find that we can, or that could be positive out of this situation. There has to be a lesson out of this situation. So for me, my barriers were at home, in becoming who I am today, but I was able to overcome it. I had people around me that supported me, that helped me become who I am today. But like I said at the beginning, it has to start with me. It has to start mentally, shifting that mentality. And I had to shift that mentality at a young age in order for me to be able to become who I am today.
Thank you, Javier, and thank you everyone for sharing those barriers. I know it's tough to kind of, reflect on those, but the insight you bring for how to overcome them really does help guide us. And I also wanted to share in my own experiences, I think, one of my barriers was myself. And really thinking about, I always, when I was younger, was trying to get away from my culture, get away from my city, get away from, my language, and just be like, how they used to say, like, oh, like you're ghetto if you have an accent or whatever. And like, I always wanted to get away. And so as I started to like get really closer into our health center family, honestly, I will say that the health center did change me and like let me know that it's okay to be who I am, and it's okay to come from where I come from. And it just, it is what it is, and it is me. And I had to get over that and just understand that, your path in your life is valuable, and it makes you the person you are today. And that's, the great people we have within this organization. So I am going to open it up so that we all can, ask some questions or share a little bit more about everyone. So I'll unpin everyone so we're all in a big group and have a little bit of discussion. And so yeah, we can stop sharing and then we can unpin and have like a group conversation. We probably have like 3 more minutes to do that. And feel free to raise your hand if you want something to add to close this out and to get to final things out. Give me 1 second. I'm working on unpinning us. Awesome. So now we're in a big group. And yes, go ahead, Brenda.
Unmute. First of all, thank you so much for sharing your personal stories, your heart, your soul, trusting us with that beautiful information. And also thank you for scaling our Path to Leadership series. Some of you know why it's something that that our team started, and it was really to try and give voice and for so many talented, intelligent, and just passionate colleagues that really did not feel like they always had that circle and that platform to do that. And so I'm glad that others are hearing from some of our incredible colleagues. And I learned a few things today, and I appreciate just also educating us in this forum. I'm also a proud Latina, and like, so much of what already has been said, my culture and my experiences, my circumstances have informed so much of how I think and how I do things. And I would just add to what was said around, what do we look to? When we were talking about people in our lives that have sort of inspired us. And I think we always have to look to others, but look to others across the board, and some of the folks that I'm most inspired by or some of my direct reports and people that I don't see every day. And so that's important. And the other thing is, follow your purpose, not people. So one of the ways that when I think about my leadership and how to strengthen it, I don't see myself as being subject to any particular person. I follow my purpose, and I'm trying to learn what that purpose is every day and go deeper in that. When you do that, then it just frees you, it liberates you. And that's what it's about. And when we can do that, then we can pass that on to others. I was on a long flight a couple of days ago, and I read a book. It's called Turn the Ship Around, and it's turning followers into leaders. So I want to offer that to folks, and can get that to anyone who wants that. But it's about this conversation we're having today. But again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Brenda, for allowing us to kind of scale this and continue to have this conversation organization-wide. We probably have room for one more thought and comment. And awesome. Well, thank you so much for participating in this lovely webinar. Thank you to our panelists who were, pouring out their experiences and their love to everyone here. And I appreciate you all for participating in this panel. It was truly an honor to be a panelist alongside of you. So this was great. And I encourage everyone here at the Health Center to continue to have these conversations, even if it's not about Hispanic Latinx Heritage Month, but to continue to talk about your leadership, continue to share your story, and continue to be a channel to others, and continue to work on. Thank you so much for being here, and you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Happy lunchtime, right? Lunch hour. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job,
Thank you,
Jean
Dr.
Marie. You did awesome, Jean Marie. Thank you.
That's a good job. Thank you, everyone.
Amazing, amazing. You did amazing. Fantastic.
Thank you, Annalie.